Outsourcing the development of a startup project is almost mandatory at the beginning. The question is, should I outsource my development on a fixed price basis or on a time and material basis? Properly answering that question for every stage of a startup can lead you to a success or a total failure. So let's dissect which one is the best for your current situation. Hi, I'm Amaury, founders and CEO at MyCTO where founders come to learn how to build their tech startup. With this Startup Snacks series available on both podcast and YouTube, we want to share the essentials to make it easier for you to build your tech startup. Among the 100 startups I've coached so far, I've seen and used both contracts, fixed price and time-based development. To illustrate this decision, let me share the story of a startup that I've been working with. Bruce is the founder of a B2B startup. He started to work on a fixed price basis with the first agency. He was very enthusiastic as he found an agency to develop his amazing startup idea for a price that he could afford. And the agency started development. But new ideas popped up along the way, new features, new ways to structure platforms, etc. And therefore, it generated some changes to the code and the core structure of the software. Usually, this is where the relationship between the providers goes wrong. And that's what happened to Bruce, basically. The provider was willing to help, but because of new changes, it became an endless work. He soon realized that he would have to work 2 or 3 times more than what he had anticipated to get paid. If it's a young developer or a brand new agency, they might put the effort just to prove themselves they can do it and to start creating their portfolio. But if it's an established company with other classic corporate clients, you might become their lowest priority. Your project, which was supposed to be developed in months, can sometimes take years and never get done. In other words, letting you miss your time to market and potentially allowing competitors to appear in the meantime. So that's what happened to Bruce. Instead of 4 to 6 month development, more than a year passed, and only 50% of the development was complete. The provider, sorry about that situation, started to work during evening and weekend in addition to other clients he had. But no need to say that the provider's motivation dropped down as he was putting a lot of effort on a work that in the end was not going to pay that much. So what happened? Bruce moved to another outsourcing company, and this time on time and material basis, which means that he was paying developers on hourly basis to be sure they were getting the work done, and now not someday. And unfortunately, it took about another year of development to create a working platform and a mobile application. Just for you to know, Bruce's concept is a B2B software and luckily not that much innovative as he was competing with existing solutions, which means that Bruce had to develop almost as much features as his competitors, which was a tall order. But that's another topic for another day. This is a strategic question. And if that's interesting, just drop me a comment on the chat or in the comments on YouTube, and I will cover that in another video. So coming back to Bruce's story, what can we learn out of it? If your product idea is unclear, if your feature list is not well defined with some remaining uncertainty, then hiring on a fixed price is too risky. You would basically ask a provider to be responsible for the price and delay while you change the content of the work. And it's ever changing in that case. So if you really want to move forward with a certain level of uncertainty, then you have to move forward on a time and material basis, basically paying developers per hours. But of course, that's where you will be the main responsible of the price and the delay. Now, if you increase your level of certainty, which I do recommend you to do, there are 2 ways. Either you draw all the screens of your applications in details, you define all the features you need, and above all, in which order you want them. Can take a lot of time of preparations, and potentially you can change your mind at the end. Or you reduce the scope. And that's basically what I highly recommend you to do. And you create a version 0 with only 1 key feature. Then you can move forward with a fixed price based contract, In that case, the providers has all the required information to commit to a certain budget and delay. But fixed price is not always the best solution. Now, let's review how to make that decision based on the stage of your project. So basically, at the ideation stage, at the ideation phase, I do recommend to limit yourself to launching a tiny prototype that is small enough to be set in a fixed price contract. So that allow you to establish the relationship between you and your providers. And again, I really emphasize on that. Be sure that it's well defined and that your provider fully understands what you expect. And now, if you move forward with an ideation stage with some interest from your users, but with multiple ideas that will pop up and arise, then you will need to prioritize. And on that phase, you might receive so many new ideas, so many improvements that a fixed time contract is very, very hard to manage with a provider. So you should better switch to a time and material basis for that phase. Now, the problem with the time and material is that it might make you lose your objectivity regarding the quality of your software. Basically, features might take longer and longer to produce. Time flies, delivery is always late. Maybe you have, in that case, a quality issue with your development. Potentially, your developers use the quick and dirty mode a bit too often on the initial phase. If this sounds familiar, it might be beneficial to move back to a fixed time contract just to let your provider being more responsible on the technical depth that he might have created. And by the way, that leads me to come back to the issues that you might have with your providers and basically the reason behind these issues. So there are only two, in fact. Either you are unclear on what you expect, or your provider did not understand what you expect, which is the same one. Or the second one, the provider isn't at the level and cannot provide the expected results on time and at the quality that is expected, or that could be expected. And usually founders are used to think that this is the number two, while in reality, in 90% of the case, it's the number one, where you are not clear enough. You did not check that the provider really understood you properly and knew what to develop before offering you a price. And that's really a tall order. We see these type of problems in startups as well as big corporations in the world. Communication and understanding each other with the provider is actually the key. In fact, if I had to choose one above the other between fixed price and time and material, I would choose time and material, because one of the biggest advantage of this one is that you can involve your provider on your project, not limiting him to just execute your ideas or execute what you want to develop, but also getting his feedbacks, his good ideas, optimizing how to build things, and also how to optimize the development by maybe reusing technical components, etc., and basically making your project go faster than while just executing what you ask, basically. In other words, you can also use your provider to think out of the box and it can lead you to create more extraordinary things. So in conclusion, start if possible on a fixed price with only a small scope, one feature if possible. Once you trust and have a good understanding set up between you and your provider, improve your product on time and material basis. And then aim to stay in time and material basis, unless if you have high costs and delay on the delivery of your software. And to finish this video or this podcast, here are a few KPIs to have in mind. First, the real cost of features. Secondly, the real cost of troubleshooting versus the new features developed. And last, real cost of refactoring code. Because in the end, that's small features, small project that you will have to go through no matter what. Most of the time, we have to dedicate a little bit of time on the refactoring thing. I hope this topic helped you. If you have any question or want to suggest any topic, feel free to drop a comment on YouTube or on Instagram. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.